Welcome back. I am really excited to announce this, but we finally reached over 100 subscribers. I really appreciate everyone's support, everyone liking, watching, and subscribing to this channel. I love doing this, and I hope you guys love it just as much as I do. For this next batch of movies, we have everything. Old classics, some have aged well, some have not, an anthology movie, new releases, and all of them cover mindless gore, random nudity, slow psychological burns, and of course, a sense of fun. So, let's dive in. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Let's get high.
I gotta say, what a fun movie. The first two Nightmare movies took themselves pretty seriously, and rightfully so. Freddy Krueger is a terrifying, relentless killer with almost unlimited power. He sneaks into your head when you are at your most vulnerable, plays with your fears, and then when he has almost reached the height of ecstasy of scaring you, he kills you. Or maybe it's just when he's gotten really bored and is done with you. I really don't know what makes him stretch out certain kills or just instant kills a person. They don't really go into it, and honestly, I don't really care. In Dream Warriors, the deaths are pretty serious, but the build-up right before really flexes how much fun Freddy can have and wants to have before tossing away his next victim. The movie starts off introducing our new girl, Kirsten, who is staying up late making paper mache because she has nightmares. Uh-oh. Eventually she falls asleep and wakes up in one of Freddy's nightmares, and first impressions on this nightmare, it's top notch. You get an impression that they're really upped the budget on this one.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Oh, actually, it wasn't me. It was...
No, it's okay. I'm used to it.
There's a burned down house with a ton of junk in front of it, and of course a bunch of kids doing some classic playground games, all the while singing the Freddy song. This is the third movie in the series, and I still don't really have a good grasp on who or what these kids are. Are they the original victims of Freddy when he was alive? Are they a warning sign that he is coming? Are they the kid versions of his victims when he became a dream demon? So many questions. Kirsten wakes up and goes to the bathroom and, oh wait, it's a fake out. Inception ain't got shit on Elm Street movies. The mom wakes her up as Kirsten is about to slit her wrists. At least her death was gonna look like a suicide. Remember Johnny Depp's death in the first movie? Yeah, I don't know how someone was gonna explain that one away. So the mom admits her to a psychiatric hospital with other kids who also have sleep problems. We get introduced to the staff and, oh hey, Morpheus is in this.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Not in this movie, my friend. We get introduced to some new characters and in walks Nancy from the first movie like a boss. It's been 6 years since the first movie and she's survived till now. How, you ask? Oh, she got her hand on some dream-suppressing pills. Must have been right after the first movie, because she was already close to being next on Freddy's chopping block. By the way, this is the third movie and everyone still calls him Fred Krueger. Just seems off. Always Freddy. I've always called him Freddy, and I've always heard other people call him Freddy. Anyway, sidetrack over. Kirsten is having another nightmare, but oh shit, she pulls Nancy into one of her dreams, and she actually saves Kirsten, and they both are able to jump out at the last second. Nancy later tells Kirsten that the house in her dreams is Nancy's old house. The doctors at the clinic introduce Nancy to all the kids, and damn, there's a lot. But don't worry, Freddy's gonna trim the fat a bit. The next dream one of the kids has is from Philip, and Freddy enters in the dreams by turning himself into one of those marionettes that Philip has in his room. You may ask yourself, why would Freddy do that when he could just walk into the room? 'Cause it's really fun killing kids. It's just because Freddy likes to dick around, that's why. So Freddy turns him into a marionette and literally strings him along by his tendons and veins and makes it look like he is gonna jump off a roof. Some of the kids see him and try to save him, but to no avail. Holy shit. These series of scenes are amazing. Perfectly acted, well written, creative, they have a dark sense of fun, just all of it. And to top off that fun sandwich, we get another death where Freddy slams a girl's head into a damn TV.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And what's amazing about it is that the docs say it was a suicide. Look where this TV is. There's no chair in front of it. Oh yeah, people normally just kill themselves by getting a running start, leaping into the air, and slamming their head through a TV that's hung up on the wall.
Dumbass!
At the funeral, the head doctor of the clinic, Dr. Gordon, gets visited by a mysterious nun that seems to know more about Freddy than anyone else. And with two of the kids dead, Nancy pulls out the big guns and tells the kids she knows exactly what's going on. She actually knows who Freddy is, and the reason why these kids are targeted is because their parents are the ones who killed Freddy when he was alive. So they all decide to dream together with Dr. Gordon to prove that Freddy is real. In the dream, everyone flexes their dream powers. We got Kirsten with gymnastics powers, Taryn, who is a biker with knives, Will, he's the wheelchair kid, can walk and is also a wizard, and Roland, who is super strong. And Nancy, well, I guess she just doesn't get any powers in this movie. While all this is happening, the quiet kid Joey gets taken aside by a hot nurse and bam! We get our first Elm Street movie with boobs. I mean, it is a slasher, so it was bound to happen eventually. Joey gets strapped to a bed frame by tongues and is hanging over a fiery pit. Oh, classic Freddy. Once Freddy is done with Joey, he goes after the other kids and they all pull themselves out of the dream. They wake up and find Joey in a coma, so Dr. Gordon goes looking for the spooky nun who tells the origin story of Freddy, which isn't bad. And then she says to kill him, you need to find his remains and bury them in hollow ground, which is pretty standard ghost stuff. Nancy and Dr. Gordon track down Nancy's dad because they think he would know where Freddy was buried, and then they split off. Nancy goes back to the clinic to help the kids while Dr. Gordon and the sheriff go for Freddy's remains. Nancy gathers the other kids and they all try to sleep to save them. Taryn fights Freddy first, and it doesn't really end so well. Her death is pretty fitting because she is a recovering junkie, but also she wasn't that very convincing of a badass. Will is next on Freddy's list, so he stands tall and unleashes all of his wizard powers and oh shit!
Sorry, kid. I don't believe in fairy tales.
He dies too? Damn, I really thought he was gonna last longer. This movie does a big cast with high casualties well, unlike Friday the 13th Part 2. Yeah, that movie was shit. Everyone that's left meets up and finds Joey in the boiler room with Freddy. Why didn't he just kill him like everyone else? Because the script says so, that's why, I guess. Nancy even points out that Freddy is stronger now. Freddy says it's because the souls of his victims make him stronger. But let's keep Joey alive for some reason. Anyways, meanwhile, back in the real world, the doctor and the sheriff are getting busy with Freddy's remains, and Freddy comes into the real world for a bit and kills the sheriff and almost gets the doctor, then goes back into the dream world. The gang frees Joey, but Freddy almost takes them all out, but then Joey actually saves them with the power of his screams, which is a pretty obvious outcome, you know, the mute kid having screaming powers. It seems like all is well, but Freddy does another fake out, and the doctor up top is able to consecrate Freddy's remains, while Nancy kills Freddy in the dream, but Freddy takes her with him. We flash forward to everyone's funeral, and Dr. Gordon gets one last visit from the nun, and it's revealed that she was Freddy's birth mother, and the movie ends. So how was it? It's awesome. This is so far my favorite movie of the marathon. What a fun, creative slasher movie. My favorite kill has to be the tendons one. The build-up that leads to Freddy finally killing him is perfect. You can feel the kid's pain as he is being pulled against his will, the desperation and effort of his friends trying to save him, and the cynical Freddy pulling it off effortlessly with a smile on his face. I was really surprised that the wheelchair kid got killed off so quickly in the dream world. Speaking of, I knew Nancy was going to die in this movie, but I didn't think Joey, Roland, and Kirsten were going to survive. I thought Kirsten was going to be the sole survivor, but Freddy being a skeleton in the real world was pretty ridiculous. It looked like it was cut straight away from a very different kind of movie. And it makes no sense that killing the kids makes Freddy stronger, but for some reason he keeps Joey alive. It's just not in Freddy's MO to keep anyone alive. He keeps them from sleeping long enough so that when they finally do pass out, he can kill them without them waking up, and then he moves on. But overall, this is a great movie. I highly recommend it. Also, the end credits music is pretty awesome. VHS 94. The VHS franchise is pretty straightforward and consistent with its setup. It has a main story of some characters for some reason or another finding a bunch of creepy VHS tapes, and a handful of them get played for us, the audience. In these horror anthologies, the tapes are their own individual tales, ranging from any part of the world and may contain any kind of story, monsters, demons, cult leaders, serial killers, gods, mad scientists, really anything goes. But since there are 4 stories, that are 15 to 20 minutes apiece. I'll just do brief descriptions and a quick rating of them. Tape 1, Rat Man.
Are you the Rat Man, Bill?
A minor news reporter is asking the public for their tales of the Rat Man. Her ambition leads her and her cameraman into the sewers of the city looking for any leads. Could the legend of the Rat Man be true? Do they want them to be true? This is a solid story. Good scares, good lingering moments of dread, and an ending that's nice and fun. Tape 2, Funeral Home. A newbie funeral director is left in charge of a wake service overnight. As the night lingers, our funeral director realizes that she's not as alone as she thinks she is. This is another good short story. It's simple, builds good tension, and you really want the character to survive the night. Tape 3, Robo-Scientist. A mad Indonesian scientist once saw the movie RoboCop and thought, what if I did that without government funding or people's consent in any sense of the word? This one was hit and miss for me. There are moments of good dread and terror, but then it turns into doom and it all just goes downhill with bad CGI, unsynced gunfire paired with poor reaction timing. They tried to do way too much with this. Tape 4. Redneck Revolution. About a dozen or so hicks believe that America needs to be reborn, and with their secret super weapon, it may be possible. But can they contain it? This is probably the weakest tape. It has a super long and boring beginning and middle. Things only get interesting in the ending, and the ending, they do a different take on a classic movie monster, and it's not my favorite version. Critics seem to really like this movie, but the audience seems to hate it. You may wonder why after my individual breakdown of the tapes. They are the main focus of the movie and none of them were flat out garbage. The Cyborg one was hit and miss and the Rednecks were kind of boring, but I didn't hate either of them. So the reason for the hate can be attributed to the connecting story. A SWAT team raids a complex filled with a bunch of zonked out people watching the VHS tapes, and this connecting story is dog shit. I don't know what teenager they hired to take over the responsibility of the story that connects the other stories, but he should have been fired. It's that bad. The acting, dialogue, and motivation of all these characters is atrocious. The worst part is that the movie ends, like they all do, with the ending of the connecting story. In the first and second VHS movie, the writers were smart enough to keep it minimal and wrap it up quick in the end because they knew the audience doesn't care about the connecting story. I don't know what they did in the third movie because I haven't seen it, but VHS 94, having your ending be the worst part of your movie is a horrible idea. It ruins any motivation someone would have to watch this again. Even if you rearrange the order of the tapes, it wouldn't be enough because the main problem is a SWAT team that is told in pieces throughout the entire movie. If you can forgive the SWAT story, VHS 94 is a decent addition to the VHS franchise. A Dark Song. A Dark Song is a very long, slow-burning thriller about a grieving mother enlisting the help of a ritual specialist to help perform some dark work in order to communicate with the great beyond. But her intentions are not so clear, and the ritual's costs may be too high. This is a pretty long and uneventful movie, but it does have its moments and a nice ending, so I'll do minor spoilers. The movie starts off with our main character, Sophia, doing massive prepping for a ritual to speak to her guardian angel to grant her any wish that she wants. The ritual is called the Abramelin, but the ritual is too complex, so she enlists the helps of Joseph Solomon. He has actually done the ritual 3 times before. 2 were failures, 1 was a success, so they prep for the process and plan to be stuck in a house for 8 months, and believe you me, they aren't just chilling in there, they are constantly performing rituals, spells, and all kinds of magic. There's even a scene where you think sex magic is happening, but really it's just Solomon being a horned up asshole. Even though Sophia is determined to perform the Abramelin, there are some steps she refuses to do, but Solomon knows some workarounds, which is weird. Usually rituals and spells are very specific. Make one mistake or forget one step could be the difference between salvation and damnation. Sophia is pushed to the limit, but she and Solomon are tied together in this. If one slips up, they're both screwed. But if they pull through, they get the same reward, a wish from a guardian angel. Which really doesn't seem fair. Sophia has to suffer and endure, but Solomon just has to make sure that she doesn't mess up, but he gets this prize just as much as she does. But time is passing. How much? No idea. The movie doesn't really keep track for the audience. Sophia grows impatient and we learn that she keeps lying about the wish that she wants and threatens to end it all prematurely, and even though Solomon has been berating her for most of the movie, the idea of her ending it makes him desperate and begs her to continue. There's no backing out now. Solomon takes some drastic measures to prove to Sophia that magic is happening, and there are a few moments where they do bond, which does lighten the mood from time to time. More time has passed, and holy shit, summoning Cthulhu would be easier than this. The time window is closing, and these questions remain. What is Sophia's wish? And can she make it to the cosmic finish line? The movie is well made and well acted, but the dialogue, I'll admit, I had to turn on subtitles to understand these two because their accents are that thick. Most of what they do are rituals and lower key ones, and a lot of magic we see is pretty minimal too, which is the main reason why this movie feels long. Not a lot happens. My last gripe is at the beginning when Solomon almost backs out. He says, and I quote, "You could do this yourself."
What?
Oh, come on!
The process takes months. There are periods where Sophia has to stare at a rock for 48 hours straight, rest one day, and then do it again 4 times. There's no way someone could do that without constant monitoring. I was a fan of the ending, and overall, it is another middle tier movie. It's not bad, just not something I'd rewatch. Halloween Part 2.
Gentlemen, he's still on the loose.
Was that a Halloween joke?
Part 2 is a definite improvement on Part 1. The main reason why is that there are better kills and a higher kill count. I mean, it's a slasher, that's what we're here for. This is an old-ass movie, so I'm gonna spoil it. The movie starts off right where the first one ended, and we get a short recap, which is great because it's the ending of a decent movie and it's short. Unlike Friday the 13th Part 2, where it recaps a shitty movie for way too long. I am really trashing on those movies lately. So after Michael does his signature vanishing act, he jumps from house to house killing randos. Why? I have no idea. And if he is so random with his kills, why didn't he kill the kids or animals he saw on the way to those houses? I guess that'll keep the trail off you, but he doesn't really strike me as someone who is afraid of police attention. Also, why wouldn't he just double back and kill Lori? It's not like he's patched himself up while jumping from house to house. He's moving around and killing just fine. Did Dr. Loomis scare him off that much? So Lori gets taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis and a cop are on the hunt for Michael. They spot someone who looks like Michael, so the doc gets ready to shoot him, but the cop he's with stops him, but don't worry, another cop runs Michael over, pins him to another car, and then the cop car just blows up. The cop rolls out of the car and says, "I didn't see him." That's a pretty serious accident in a residential area for a, quote, "I didn't see him" excuse. The real Michael is wandering around and hears over a boombox that Lori is at the hospital, so he heads over to pay her a visit. At the hospital, we get introduced to a couple minor characters. There's a cop, 4 nurses, 1 doctor, and 2 EMTs. Michael finds his way inside and cuts the phone lines. Okay, what? He's been under psych care since he was 6. How the hell would he know how to do that? The cop goes to check out the phone lines. Well, things aren't so busy at the hospital, so the EMT and a nurse hook up in the therapeutic hot tub, and there's boobs. Wouldn't be a slasher without a random boob scene. The Halloween series so far is 2 for 2 for nudity, but Michael's like, this could be hotter. So he turns up the heat in the tub. The EMT goes to turn down the heat, but he gets piano wired in the room right next to the nurse. And of course, she doesn't hear anything. You know, when most people get strangled to death, it's not so quick and quiet. They will kick and bash around because, you know, they are trying to survive. And there's no way that would have happened without her not being able to hear anything. The nurse is about to leave the tub, but Michael's like, nah, you could use a better soak. I know this is nitpicking, but his hand is in the same water that is boiling this chick's face to death. But his hand is totally fine. The other EMT that has a crush on Lori goes and checks on her, but she's had a bad reaction to her meds, so a nurse goes and gets the doctor. She finds him dead in a chair, and it's always lame when people are killed off screen in slashers. I want to see these kills. Anyways, Michael pops up from the shadows and sticks a syringe in her head and injects some air into it, which is a pretty sophisticated way to kill a person. which doesn't really make sense to me. Michael's level of intelligence seems to fluctuate in these movies. Sometimes he walks, sometimes he drives, sometimes he walks straight into gunfire to kill someone, sometimes he sneaks around in the shadows to catch someone from surprise, sometimes he brutally butchers someone, and sometimes he injects air into their brain. He really shouldn't be smart enough to do some of the things that he does. He's more of a relentless killer with good timing, and it seems like he's unkillable. So Michael goes looking for Lori, and she either faked what she was doing before, or she just came to and that's why she's limping all over the place. Her EMT crush tries to look for help and finds another dead nurse. Michael apparently tied her to a bed, struck a needle in her arm, and bled her out. Why did he go through all that trouble? I know it's a different way to kill someone, and we do need variety in our slashers, but this amount of effort is really unnecessary. The EMT slips on some blood and gets knocked out. Meanwhile, the last nurse tries to drive to the police station to get help, but Michael already slashed all the tires on the cars. So she comes back inside and finds Lori, but Michael's like, "I was here first, bitch!" I wonder what Michael would sound like if he spoke, or what he would say. By the way, I do think Michael is strong enough to lift someone up with one hand, but the scalpel would either break or just slide through the nurse's back. Anyways, Lori books it and she finds the dead cop hung up by some cables. Whoa. I know Michael sometimes likes to play with corpses, but what is the point of doing this? It's not even decorative. This is decorative. Hannibal is one of the best damn shows out there, period. Anyways, Lori is able to escape through a high window in the basement and tries to get in a car to leave, but she can't. While all this is happening, Dr. Loomis is being escorted by a cop and a colleague by order of the mayor to the clinic that Dr. Loomis works at. He was able to figure out the kid that got run over was too young to be Michael, but he doesn't really know where else to look. While on the drive, the colleague drops the bombshell that Lori is actually Michael's younger sister, so Loomis forces the cop to drive to the hospital when he's told that's where Lori is. They get inside and Lori runs in after them. She reconciles with Dr. Loomis and then Michael walks in like a literal Terminator. He gets gunned down, but he gets up again. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. And he kills the cop. Dr. Loomis shoots Michael in the eyes, but even that's not enough to kill him, so he fills the room with gas and blows it up with the lighter he pocketed earlier in the movie. Nice little touch of storytelling there, and the movie ends. Overall, this is a big improvement on the first movie. Better acting, better dialogue, better story elements, and best of all, better kills. There are some moments where it seems like Michael is walking so slow that he's taking half steps. Have you ever tried that? It takes more effort and concentration to walk so slow instead of just walking at a normal pace. I know I already mentioned this before, but there is a problem with Michael seeming like a focus-driven killer and just someone randomly killing people. Also, in the hospital, Michael gets the chance to kill Loomis, but stabs him only once in a non-lethal area? That's not Michael. Overall, it's an old, good slasher film. Block Island Sound. Block Island Sound is a very slow burn Netflix thriller about some strange happenings to the little fishing island of Block Island, and a local family being the main focus and victims. This review recap will be similar to my review of Lamb. It's a well-made movie with some really intriguing moments, but for the most part, not much happens in this movie, so broad stroking it may be too spoily, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. The movie focuses on Harry and his dad Tom, both local fishermen, and then there is Audrey, Harry's sister, who is a marine biologist or something. Doesn't really matter. And she has a daughter, Emily. Audrey and Emily come to visit Harry and Tom, mostly because Audrey's job is pulling her to the island. Thousands of fish are popping up on the beaches dead. Audrey is trying to find out why, but the main focus is on Harry taking care of his dad, Tom. Tom is suffering from old weird guy syndrome, and Harry is doing his best to help his dad out. But Tom's conditions are getting older and weirder, and Harry can only handle so much, and occasionally heads to the bar where the local barfly and conspiracy theorist Dale hangs out. Dale can't help himself when talking to anyone to not talk about the strange happenings and what he thinks is going on. Harry being torn up so much about his dad's condition, he can't really help but listen more and more to Dale. But is there any truth to what Dale is saying? Did Bigfoot really put us all in the Matrix because everyone knew Epstein didn't kill himself? That's really all I can say without spoiling too much of this movie. Overall, this is another okay movie in the marathon. Like Lamb, there is so much build-up and intrigue that the payoff just really isn't enough. Not only does not enough happen in the build-up, but not enough happens in the end. Some characters have such minor roles that you wonder why the story even bothers having them in the first place, like Harry's second sister, who comes and goes without adding anything significant to the plot. Just another character to say that everything happens to you is your fault and just bounces. The real shame is Dale, played by Jim Cummings, and this is the only movie I've seen him play something other than a cop. He is the most fun character, and we don't really see enough of him, and his presence and his ideas get dropped without adding anything significant to the story. Again, it's an okay movie. If you like slow burns, check it out, but I do not think this is a movie worth revisiting. Thanks for watching. Stay spooky until the next 5.